welcome everybody. Happy May. Cannot believe that it is May right now. On behalf of OABO and on behalf of Stacey, Dave, Faye, and Mike on the call tonight, we'd like you to welcome you to our 3-person clinic in Ontario. This is part of a pilot project that we would like to continue. So thank you for being part of this project, and we welcome you and we thank you for attending. Before we get started, I just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of background in regards to how kind of this clinic came to fruition. Rob Ferguson last year started an Ontario consistency panel, which he asked officials, particularly OUA officials from across Ontario to come to the table and have a conversation as to how we can establish consistency and common educational opportunities. I got the privilege, he asked me to take over when I became Provincial Supervisor, and since then we have had numerous meetings with that panel. So I wanted to publicly thank all the members of that consistency panel for their hard work, their insight, and more importantly, their commitment to basketball in Ontario. Second set of people that I'd like to thank is Dave and Stacey. This kind of, we decided to take this over in probably, please correct me if I'm wrong here, Dave and Stacey, probably in the end of March, beginning of April, and plans that we had kind of fell through. So we decided to take it on as an OABO board of directors. And I asked Stacey and Dave to take the lead, and they have shown nothing but perseverance, commitment, and enthusiasm. So thank you very much for taking this. As well, Faye and Mike, thank you for taking time tonight to join us with your experience, your knowledge, and everything like that. More importantly, I'd like to thank all of you for coming tonight and to publicly thank the local leaders of the local boards that continue to educate our officials in Ontario and throughout the country. I know we have people from across the country tonight. Without the local boards, the local commitments, we would not be where we are in regards to development in Ontario and across the country. So my deepest gratitude and thank yous for all of you that have held the education and the commitment to basketball this year. So I would like to introduce, I'll get...
Yes, give me a second here.
Perfect.
Okay, can you see that?
You can, great job.
Okay, so first of all, Georgia, I'd like to thank you for taking this initiative. And if we're gonna look at our first screen, go ahead, Georgia, you can do all the introductions.
So Dave Maxin and Stacey Newbigging are OABO, our table interpreter, and our OUA official is Dave Maxin, our OABO secretary. Congratulations on your new position, Stacey, and our is also an OUA official. Joining us tonight is the manager of officials development for CBOC, Mike Thomson, and Faye Zhang, which is our FIBA nominated game official licensee and our OUA official. So we welcome everybody to the table tonight.
Okay, so I'd just like to introduce Mike Thomson. He is going to speak a little bit about the super clinics. So Mike, if you could take it away from here. Maybe?
Mike, you're on mute.
Mike, you're on mute.
That's okay, because I wasn't saying anything important. I was just saying, I think as soon as I share, Dave, Georgia may have to give you the screen back.
Sure.
To be able to access. So thank you. And it looks like the first 30 minutes of the meeting is going to be a series of thank yous. But let me begin by congratulating all of you for taking time to participate tonight. And a special thanks to Georgia, Dave, Stacey, and Faye for their efforts in putting this together. As we work hard across the country to ensure that all of our participants are using consistent language to So I think, Georgia, I think you must have muted me when you muted everybody else. So don't know where I got to, so I'll just continue to ramble.
Apologies, Mike, I'm learning the system.
So hopefully you're all aware, you all should have got an email that Canada Basketball and CBOC are hosting a super clinic. On the coaches side, there's activities throughout May and some of those are underway. But on the refereeing side, it's a weekend, the weekend of May 29th and 30th, the Saturday and Sunday at the end of the month. We have 7 sessions on the Saturday. Carl Youngerbrand, the head of refereeing for FIBA, will kick us off with a session focused on FIBA, their operations, and their FIBA referee operations group. Following that, Nadine and Ardavan will be doing a session that focuses on equality to equity, navigating power and privilege as referees. This is an important session for us as we are in the process of adopting a diversity statement for CBOC, a statement that will align with Canada Basketball's statement. And there's a lot of work ahead of us around gender equity and certainly diversity and inclusivity. And it'll be an important session. Our third session with Wasim Husseini and Kevin Lee will talk about referee fitness and preparation. It'd be hard for folks on this call to believe, but it does feel like we are going to have some basketball before the end of this year. And so this will be it's a very practical session. I've watched Wasim and Kevin as to how they think about this. And for those of you that haven't run or had an awful lot of activity in the last year, this will be a great session to help you along. Our fourth session is Matt Callio. Most of you will recognize Matt as our Canadian NBA official, but certainly with WNBA experience and some FIBA assignments this summer. Matt's experience at all sorts of different levels has caused him to learn to have very specific protocols that allow him to be his best when he steps on the floor, no matter the level of the game. NBA, WNBA, and international senior men's game. An exciting session. We have Terry Moore, an NC2A official. I'm going to describe Terry as one of the most practical human beings in the world. If you haven't met Terry, I make no recommendations to follow anybody for any reason on social media except one. And the only human being I will recommend to follow on social media is Terry Moore. Terry Moore is currently living in Spartanburg, South Carolina. He's lived in that part of the world all his life. 30 years experience as an NC2A Division I official, worked at 2 Men's World Championship games. He was one of those officials from the U.S. that was fortunate enough to be at FIBA assignments when the U.S. did not make the final, allowing Terry to work the Men's Championship game in 2006 and the Young Men's Championship game in 2005. Terry is today the Southeast Conference's replay official. So every time the Southeast Conference plays a game, Terry goes to Birmingham, Alabama, and is in a booth there where he's the only replay official at major college basketball in the U.S. Terry is a very practical individual and will do a session around life lessons from a veteran referee. Our next speaker is Lauren Holtkamp Sterling. Lauren, of course, is an NBA official, 3rd woman to join the NBA. 7 seasons in the NBA now, but with a background of NC2A Division I women's basketball, a WNBA career, as well as D-League as opposed to G-League. She was working when it was still the D-League. Lauren called me this morning and I spent about 45 minutes on the phone with her. It was a great conversation and she's excited about the session. John McFarland will provide a wrap-up on Saturday regarding working with coaches. The description for that session is posted on the Feed Loop site. I apologize, I pulled up an old document. On Sunday, we will have 4 sessions. The first session, Georgia will host the panel, and 4 members of CBOC will talk about the Canadian Basketball Officials Commission, the changes with the replacement of CABO by CBOC, what does it mean for the future officiating in Canada, and make sure we provide everybody with the information that they need. I will follow that up and do a session on post-game feedback. While the session is focused at referee coaches, it's certainly not isolated to referee coaches. It should introduce concepts and tools and methods to ensure we all know the best practices for referee coaches, but really so that the referees know what they're looking for and how they should accept post-game feedback. John McFarland will do a session that is really around tournament selection. It's light on policy, but by policy, it will talk about how you as an official wanting to apply for national tournament will have greater success, the information that's provided. And we'll wrap up the weekend on Sunday with a session called Assigners Roles in 2021. Paul Johnson will host with Jen McKenzie, Penny Wright, Jason Steele, and Wasim Husseini. And this is intended to be a provocative session to help us all understand that we're in a world today where the assigners have a critical role in the learning and development for officials. They have a critical role in addressing that ED&I equation of equity, diversity, inclusivity in the officiating team. And our panelists will provide us with some practical tools as to how we can make those adjustments. So $29.99, the registration information is on Game Plan, but you've all been sent an email. Our registrations are looking pretty reasonable right now, but we've on our 500 slots that are available on Zoom, we've still got a few hundred available. The clinic is designed that you can come in and out if your day doesn't allow you to participate the whole day. On Saturday, the sessions are short, 45 minutes each with a 15-minute break. Do I guarantee we'll get a 15-minute break between all sessions? No. But if you're at home, you have the ability to go to the fridge or go outside if you need to while the session is going on. So thank you, Georgia, Stacey, Dave, and Faye. And I will take this off of share at the moment and send it back to you guys.
Okay. Thanks very much, Mike. It looks like a great session. I'm just going to share my screen again. Okay, Georgia. So hopefully everybody can see that. So thanks again, Mike. Georgia, we put this together a while ago, and we had, our basic objectives. If you can maybe just briefly go over why we put these together, and then we'll take it away to Faye.
Thanks, Dave. We've been off of basketball now for close to a year and a half, and the reality is that by the time we're back on the court, we don't know if it's going to be September or January. So I think from a perspective of, starting to have that common conversation is that creating that consistency across Ontario, not only for our most experienced officials, but also our up-and-coming officials. I think that mentorship and leadership perspective is something that we do really well in Ontario. The second thing is we really want to implement that FIBA language. I continue to learn and correct myself on a daily basis in regards to what and how to explain and how I want to look at plays and how I want to break down plays and how do I want to create and talk about the criteria for calling plays. So that's something that as a province we need to work on. The last thing, and I think the most important thing, is make information accessible to all the interested parties. I think that everybody gets to come in and get the information and have accessibility to that information. What you do with it and how you implement it and how you work on it is up to you. So that lifelong learning process and however much work you want to put into it is something that everybody should have access to. So from that aspect, all the information that is on the slides tonight is completely accessible through our game plan. It comes from the FIBA manual for referee basic 3-person officiating. The goal is that the next one we do the advanced 3-person officiating, but both Stacey and Dave heavily thought that from the very beginning, we need to all be on the same page in terms of the delivery and accessibility to the information. So that way we can't say, well, I never knew that. So thank you, Dave.
Thanks very much, Georgia. So just before we get started, we're going to dive right in. We were asked, I put it in the chat, if you could have a paper and pencil. We want to make this a little bit interactive. And we're going to ask, we're going to dive right in with Faye, who is going to talk a little bit about general court positions.
Thanks, Dave. Good evening, everyone. So nice to see everyone out. So as Dave said, Dave, is it possible to get the cord on here?
Yep, just give me 1 second.
Oh, perfect.
There you go.
Okay, so as Dave had asked, if you have a pen and paper handy beside you, if we can take a quick 30 seconds at naming the 6 general court positions that are on this slide, so A, B, C, D, E, F, and then we will get to them.
15 seconds. Okay, 10 seconds. And let's see how we did. Okay, Faye, go ahead.
All right, so in position A, we have table side, which is the side of the playing court, which is closest to the scorer's table. Okay. Position B, opposite side, so referring to the side of the playing court, which is the furthest away from the table. So C, in reference to the ball, we have the dotted imaginary line dividing from basket to basket, and we have whichever side that the basketball is on. D, help side, half of the front court, that's opposite of the ball. E, we have our strong side referring to our 3 officials, the side of the court where the trail and lead officials are. And lastly, F, weak side, the side of the court where the center official is.
Okay. So how'd we do? Okay, so these are the basic things that we need to know just when we talk about FIBA language is how we look at the court. Thanks very much, Faye. Okay, so our next one, we're going to talk a little bit about the primary concept of 3-person officiating. And Stacey, if you could take over from here.
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for joining us. Primary concept for 3-person officiating is pretty simple. We want 2 referees, the trail and the lead, on ball side as much as we possibly can. So on the court as we have it here, we've got the ball, which automatically we've got ball side, and we have referees, trail, and lead on the same side as the ball, which makes that the strong side. And we have center, which is the weak side opposite the other 2 officials. The idea being that we want 2 referees with different angles at all times as much as possible. So analysis has demonstrated that this leads to higher decision making and greater call accuracy. The way to achieve this best is for the 3 officials to rotate, which again is simple in concept but complicated in execution. So it is something that we are going to dive into much more. But from a starting point, the 2 things to take away: 2 referees, trail and lead, ball side as much as possible, and to make that happen, we're going to rotate.
Okay, so thanks very much, Stacey. So we're going to start from the beginning. And Stacey, if you want to talk a little bit about our pregame and our half-game positions.
Absolutely.
Or halftime positions, sorry.
For sure. So we all know we set the tone from the minute that we walk out onto the floor. And if we're all doing things the same way with the same procedures, it leads to a level of professionalism, and it helps to make us prepared for the game as well. So when we get set up, we've got the crew chief in the middle at the center line. The U1 is to the left of the crew chief, and the U2 is standing to the right of the crew chief. U1 and U2 are responsible for observing the teams that are warming up on their side of half. The other opportunity that we should take during these moments before the game are warming up. So very often, obviously the teams are warming up at that time, but a lot of times we end up standing still. So warming up our bodies to meet the same level as the teams and being ready to play at that moment is key. So the CC is going to step forward initially and keep an eye on both sides of the court, and the U1 and the U2 are able to warm up off of the court behind to get their warm up in, and then the referees are able to rotate through those positions as each member of the crew finishes their warm up. And so ideally, when the ball goes up, mentally our minds are sharp and ready to go, but also our bodies are warmed up, ready to go, and ready to engage with the game as we begin.
Okay, thanks very much, Stacey. I think our CBL wants this as a procedure with the referees warming up, just to show the officials being engaged in the game. This shows everybody, I think, players, coaches, fans, that the officials are engaged in the game and they're going to be ready to referee. Okay, so after our initial pregame warm-ups, we start with the jump ball. Okay, so jump ball, we think I'd ask you to take your paper and pencil out. And the first person that we're going to look at is the responsibilities of each referee or official. What is the responsibility of the crew chief? I'll give you 10 seconds to write that out. What do you think the responsibility of the crew chief is? So if we go to our FIBA manual, you have one job. Crew chief's responsibility is to toss the ball. Now, if you go into our IoTs and you look at that, there's actually a checklist that you go through for, to toss the ball. So, eventually have a look at those. Like you have one job, but it's the most important. Okay. So the next one that we're going to look at is the U1. Okay. So if we look at the U1, what do we think the responsibilities on the jump ball for the U1 are? I'll give you about 10 seconds to write them out, or what you think. I'll give you a hint. There's basically 3 responsibilities the U1 has on the jump ball. So our U1 is calling for a re-jump on a poor toss or a jumper violation. Now that should say and look for jumper violations. We don't re-toss on violations. Sorry, I'll fix that up on the slide. But also giving a time in signal to start the game clock. Okay, so the next one that we're going to look at is that we're going to look at the U2. What is the U2's responsibility on a jump ball? I'll give you 5 seconds to write this out. Okay. So our U2 responsibilities are to observe possible violations or fouls for the other 8 non-jumpers. Now, the one thing that I want you to look at when, a very simple diagram, but lots of responsibilities. And if we look at the positioning, we start out already with the positioning to allow us to officiate time, distance, and spacing. Okay, and the U1 is not a mirror image of the U2. The U1, if you look at this, is a little closer to the center line because they're looking for, a poor toss or violations by the jumpers. Okay, our U2 is a little farther away, and if you look at our U2, all right, they've got a lot of responsibility. There's 8 other players on the court that you have to look at. Okay, so they have a lot of responsibility, and we really have to get active, our mindset active, right from the jump ball. Okay, so they call them non-active officials, but these non-active officials, their minds are very active because they have a lot of responsibility. So a simple diagram, right? And you always, that looks, very simple to look at. Yeah, we know what we're doing, but we just want to remind ourselves when we go on to the court that we go through our checklist, that we self-talk about what can go on during this jump ball. And we'll talk about this a little bit later, is like the crew chief has one job and toss the ball. In my experience, when I've tossed the ball and the ball goes back and then the ball goes one way, we got to talk about where the crew chief goes. Okay, so the direction of play. Okay, so we're going to just keep it very basic and simple. So if the ball goes to the crew chief's left, the crew chief's going to go to trail, the U1's going to go to lead, and the U2 will go to the center position. Now the problem always comes when the ball gets tipped back here and then play starts to come this way. Where does the crew chief go? Well, you need to pick a path. And in my experience, sometimes the best thing that I do is I stand still and let the players pick their path first, and then I would pick mine. Okay. Again, if pretty basic stuff, but if the ball goes to the crew chief's right, the crew chief's going to go to trail, the U2 is going to go to lead, and then we're going to have the center position. Now, you notice one thing that I didn't mention if we go back to the other slide is the direction of the arrow. Okay, so nowhere in there do you see responsibilities for direction of the arrow. You got to remember that when we toss the ball, the scores table, actually the responsibility of the arrow goes to the scorer. Okay, if we go through our IOTs, the responsibility of checking whether the arrow is right goes to the non-calling officials. Now everybody checks it, as we should, but just to be clear, like, you do have officials at the scores table, and they have their responsibilities and duties too. Okay, so as we come out in our second, third, and fourth quarters and overtime, we have our crew chief administer the throw-in, okay, and the U1 or U2 go to either C or lead. Okay, so that's how we start the game. Now, once we've started the game, we have to go into our court coverages. So, Stacey, do you want to take court coverage away? Give them a little chance to. We have a few things about court coverage, some basic things. Sorry, Stacey, go ahead.
No problem. All right. So, in terms of court coverage, each referee must be responsible for their own area. So, the outside of the primary concepts, the number one thing that we need to look at is trust. You definitely need to trust each of the members of your crew that they're going to take care of their area. So we know that lead has the smallest coverage area available to them. However, they're going to make 50 to 60% of all calls within the game. So that comes into play as well, because one, we need to trust that lead is going to make those calls, but then as lead as well, it reinforces the need to stay within that area because that's where a lot of the action is. But if all of that is happening within that zone, that 50 to 60%, we can't then have lead looking broadly outside of that area when there's so much action happening right in front of them. So trust is absolutely critical. The basic rule to court coverage, we need to have two referees on the same side of the ball as much as possible in order to make sure there's effective coverage during active shooting situations. So as mentioned, if lead has 50 to 60% of the calls, that also means that there's going to be a lot of action in front of them. And at times they may be blocked out. There may be extra players there. There may be a reason that they can't get an open angle on the play. And that's when having trail on the same side is going to be able to assist and help out in those situations. So we're going to increase our effectiveness and efficiency by having those two officials on the same side of the ball as much as possible.
Okay, Stacey, we're just going to talk a little bit about court coverages, and we'd ask everybody to just take a little bit of time here. We'll give you 30 seconds. Draw a half court on your piece of paper that you have, and I want you to draw out what you think the areas of responsibility are for the trail, or areas of coverage. Sorry, areas of coverage are for the trail, the lead, and the center official. So we'll give you 30 seconds. Take your piece of paper out and draw the areas of coverage for the trail, the lead, and the center referees. Okay, everybody should have time. Okay, Stace, take it away, our court coverage.
All right, so if we have a look at the diagram here, we've got our strong side officials, lead and trail, and we have our weak side official, center. So center is responsible for everything that is divided by the basket line to the sideline. Okay. We are dividing the court straight down the middle by the basket, and then everything on that side belongs to center. If we look over on the strong side where our trail and lead are hanging out, trail has a large coverage area as well. Theirs is also going to the basket line. It's coming all the way down to the second hash mark. And they are also going to take responsibility for the edge of the 3-point line into the corner. We then look at what the lead is responsible for. The lead, again, as we talked about, has the smallest coverage area. They are working from basket line up to that second hash mark and then across to the 3-point line. You'll notice right now that there isn't a ball on the screen. The ball is determining help side and weak side for the players, but these coverage areas are being determined by where our officials are. So our officials right now, even if the ball is over on center side, because of the orientation of our officials at this moment, the coverage areas stay the same. You're still responsible for the same space that is in front of you for those moments. Which, if we look over onto the other side, we've flipped. So now our strong side, trail, and lead are now on the left side of the court. Center is on the right, and the same principles apply. The court's being divided by the basket line. Center is responsible for everything on that side of the basket line, and trail is taking care of everything from the basket line across to the sideline on their side, and lead is going to turn in and take care of that second hash mark, basket line and down, and containing within the 3-point line.
Thank you, Stacey. I think one thing that we have to remember, especially, as officials here in Ontario, is that we're dividing the court in half, okay? We're not taking it to the opposite lane line. We're dividing the court in half. So if we want to talk about consistency throughout the country, this is what FIBA says that we should be doing. So we should be doing it, okay? So, thanks very much, Stacey. So we're going to dive into a little bit. We have 4 plays that we'd like to look at. And when we look at video analysis, there's always some points to consider. Okay, so we're going to try to keep, things on a basic level. So when we analyze plays, some basic principles will be necessary to follow. So we have to look at proper distance from the play. So you must keep an open angle and remain stationary. So do not move too close to the play, as this will narrow your field of vision. So we talk about IoTs. So this is, 2 IoTs that we're going to be looking for in these videos, distance and stationary. Okay, refereeing the defense. And we're going to deal with refereeing the defense a little bit more in detail a little bit later. We always want to look for illegal action called the active mindset. Okay, so we always want to be looking for illegal action. So have the key players one-on-one, and as many players as possible in your field of vision in order to see any illegal action. So this is this 45-degree angle that we talk about, okay, this open angle, okay? And understand when the play ends so that you can move on to the next play mentally, physically, and I want you to stay with the play until it's over. So the one thing that we want to discuss just before we start these clips is that we really don't want to look at, was there a foul? Was there, was that the right call or not? That's not what we're trying to do here. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to point out, some things that we've done right and some things that we can do better using these types of principles, right? Do we have proper distance? Do we have a 45-degree? Are we looking in our primary areas of coverage? And we go from there. So if you take your our first video analysis on clip number 1, we want you to answer the following questions. So we're going to look at it. We're going to play these clips a few times. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to identify the area of coverage where the play originated. Okay, so if you want to just write down on your piece of paper where it originated from in a little dash. We also want to answer the area of coverage where the play ended. So that's our second one that we want to do. So we want to identify the calling officials. Did the play end in their coverage area? Okay. And is the official stationary when making the call? Okay. The last thing that we want to look at, does the center official have an open look at the play? All right. So these are the things that we're looking for in this particular play. I have had some issues running it. So Stacey, I may have to give you the screen here to run this first play. Yeah, it's not going to load up for me. So if you could load that up for me, and you could take the sharing of the screen. Okay, so Stacey has the screen, and this is our first play that we're going to look at. Please remember, you know, the questions that we ask. So this is a call that originates from lead. Okay, and go ahead, Stacey, you can run the play. Okay, and we're going to run it a few times so that we can have another look at it. So Stacey, you just want to pause it just right there?
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. So the first thing that we want to look at is like, where did the area coverage where the play originated from? Okay, so go ahead and play. And just pause it just after the foul. Okay, so we pause it, and where did the areas of coverage end? Okay, we want to identify the calling official, and did the play end in their coverage area? Okay, and is the official stationary when making the call, and does the center have an open look? So just play it one more time, see if you can answer those questions. Okay, so if we just go back to the very start of it, Stacey. Mike, are you still there?
I am.
Okay, so Mike, maybe if you could break down this play a little bit for us and let us know your thoughts on the play.
Okay. I mean, take it forward. Oops. So stop it there. Stop it there. So where is our lead official right now? Is our lead official at setup or close down, or in fact, somewhere in between? Is our lead official 45 degrees to the play, or is his head in a different position than his body? So not necessarily to answer that at the moment, but because the lead's involved in this. We see our center official is effectively free throw line extended. It's conceivable in my mind that our center official could be a step lower. It's, I can't say that for sure in this situation because I don't have the back angle, but I think our center official might be a step high. It looks like our trail official is actually in a very good starting position on this play. So let's let it go really until the dribbler enters the lane. There, Stacey? Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Okay, that's good. Did our trail official disappear from the screen? I know our trail official was right on the edge of the play. It would have made sense. Cross step for sure. And that may have taken them back a bit, but our trail official needs to take a step and penetrate it. You can see that our center official has done a good job turning and looking at the play. So at the moment, for everybody looking at the play, who has the open look at this play? I think we can answer that and say that the center is the one that has the open look at the play, has a good view of the offensive player and a good view of the two defensive players for the most part. Our lead official, again, I believe the lead official who watched this is actually backing up at this point. So we certainly don't have distance and stationary. We don't have a 45-degree angle. And Stacey, is it possible to take it forward? It might be a half second where the player is airborne. So when this play occurs, what is the lead official looking through? Is the lead official looking through bodies? Or does the center official have the open look on this play? If you continue to let it run a little bit until sort of the end of the play, watch what the lead official does in making this call. They walk away from the play enough that when they've had a whistle and coaches and players turn to see what that whistle is, they're now in a position where everybody's eyes pick them up, that this position is not a position from which they distribute confidence on this particular play. I'll stop there, Dave, unless there's anything in particular that you want to.
No, I just, we talk about this clip a little bit, and next week we're going to talk, and I'm going to show this clip with the center position, using, this is probably an example of the center official not using his body language or a cross step to let everyone know that he is going to accept this call. I'm going to show you a split screen. I have another clip where next week and I'm just going to show you the comparison of this center official and another center official, stepping and cross stepping. Oh, and making a, oh, shoot. Everybody still there? Hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, you're still
Oh,
good.
okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, my screens just went blank. Sorry. Oh, just had a panic attack. But this is an example where if the center uses his body language and a cross step to let everybody know that he's accepting this call, then maybe that would help out. Okay, so we talked a lot about body language and positioning on the court. Last call through Dan's sessions. And this is just something, and I'll show you the split screen, and it's night and day. You can tell that this other official is ready to take this call. Okay? All right.
Dan, sorry, Dave, just to wrap up on that.
Sure.
Please be careful. We're not indicating correct call, incorrect call.
Right.
All
Absolutely.
we're asking is, has this call come from the official that has primary coverage on the play?
Right. So we just want to answer those questions. Okay. So I am just going to take over this again.
I've got it. I can run from there because
Okay. Yeah. Go. Yeah. Go ahead, Stacey. That would probably be the easiest.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, we're going to look at clip number 2, and we're going to identify, again, this is what you want to do when you look at clips. You want to, have specific criteria that you want to look at, identify areas of coverage and where the play originated, identify areas of where the play ended. Did the calling official, did the play end in their coverage area? Okay, go ahead. And does the body language of the lead communicate to the crew that they have accepted the play? Okay, so here's our clip number 2, and we're going to ask Faye to have a look at this one. Okay, so this is a quick clip, so we're going to have to play this a few times. Okay, and just to help us answer these questions. Okay, so go ahead, Stacey.
Yep.
So we'll probably play this 3 times.
Hold on, let me get rid of this. Sorry.
Yeah.
There we go.
And again, as Mike stated, we're not commenting on the correctness of the call. We just want to look at IoTs. We want to look at areas of coverage. We want to look at stationary distance, open looks, 45-degree angles, and things like that. Okay, so we wanted to identify the areas of coverage. Okay, we wanted to, where the play started, where it ended, calling official. Was that in their coverage area? And in this particular play, neither of these officials, the center or the lead official, had a call on this play. It was a trail official that had the call on this play. So does the body language of the lead official communicate to the crew that they've accepted the play? So Faye, maybe if you could comment on this, what do you think?
Thanks, Dave. So speaking of coverage areas, we can see that from the beginning of the clip, the play originated from the center's area. Maybe from the center, but probably, across that dual area between center and lead as well. The play ended in the lead's area of coverage. Okay. And like Dave said, it was, however, at the very end of the video, you could see that it was the trail who had made the call from a very far distance away. In terms of body language of the lead, from I guess you can already see from here that the lead is already opened up to the play. She has no other competitive matchups in her primary. In her area of coverage. So she has opened up to the play. She has accepted the play from her body language and open angle. I do think that as the player turns to go up for the shot, that potentially there may be, I think, Stacey, if you play the video just a little bit, I don't know if you can get it to as going up for the shot. I think the lead has a good angle on the spacing between the defender and the offensive player shooting the ball. So in terms of the calling official, so Stacey, if you go all the way to the end, right before, we can't even see the trail in this until the very end.
There's an arm.
There's the arm, exactly. So in terms of this play, I believe that the trail official is too far away from their area of coverage to see or to make that call. If anything, if they did see a foul happen, move into the court to, I guess, like Mike said earlier in the first play, to show more confidence in that call, to show that they really have it.
Okay, thanks very much, Faye. Appreciate that. If we look at that, and again, Mike alluded it on the previous clip, is the trail official needs to, I think, engage a little bit more. Okay, when you look at the play, maybe again, we're not looking at right or wrong. We just want to look at maybe what we could do better to cover this play. Okay, so Stacey, you want to run the next clip for us?
Sure thing. Same questions again. And then
Stacey and Dave.
Yeah.
Before we proceed, I've got a couple of questions. So
Sure.
absolutely.
I've got, hold on, gotta scroll up again now. I've got Jerry that says, why did the lead not signal a foul?
On the previous call?
Correct.
I can take that one because I'm lead. I didn't have a call on that play, and there's no there's no judgment in terms of rightness or wrongness at this point. We're just looking at coverage areas. One of the awesome things about this setup is that we've got an amazing learning environment that is safe to discuss this stuff. But the whistle on that one came from the trail position, so there was no call from the lead on that one.
Right. And this is, we go over these plays, and this is something that you discuss with your partners when the play is all done. Did they have an open look and things like that? And really what we want to try to do right now is just look at areas of coverage. When we talk about was there a foul or was there not a foul, and we talk about judgment, we want to try to maybe get away from that kind of language, and we want to start to look at criteria, right? Because if everybody calls the same play with the same criteria, then we're going to be more consistent, because people's judgment varies. But if we have criteria for fouls, then we can look at the criteria, and then we can discuss, was there enough there for a foul if we look at criteria. That way we're going to get more consistent. Okay, so it is about trusting your partners, right? And that's what you want to do. Okay, you want to be able to trust your partners and go from there. And hey, let's all face it, like, I've got hundreds if not thousands of clips of calls, and like, we miss some, right? And then what we have to do is we have to discuss how are we going to get better? How are we going to get more consistent? And to start, we need to get in the proper positions. We need to know our coverage areas. So really, that's what we're kind of trying to get across here, rather than, you know, was there a foul or wasn't there a foul? Let's just talk about IoTs, stationary, what we can do. And I guarantee you, if we as officials start implementing all of this, our call accuracy will go up. Okay. All right. So next clip, go ahead.
All right, so we're looking at the same three questions to begin this, and then as well have a look at what adjustments, if any, the officials are making to create those open angles, and if our lead official has an open look at the action of the defense as we progress through the play.
So Stacey, if you want to comment on this play,
Yeah, absolutely.
we'll run it a few times, let everybody see.
Yeah, I was just going to run it back and let it play one more time here, if I can find a cursor. There we go. All right. So same idea. If we're looking at where the play originated, right now, in terms of the definitions that we talked about tonight, where our officials are situated right now, we have two officials on this side of the court, so they're on the strong side. Our play is actually originating with our trail. The ball is going to come across, swing through, and actually the play is going to end in the key in our center's coverage area. So if we play this through again, ball rotates. If we pause here from what we were talking about, our center is now where the ball is. So the ball is strong side. Excuse me. The ball is ball side. We still have two officials, so they are strong side, and we have our center on weak side. And our play is going to end in the key. So in terms of coverage areas, we should have center's got a look into their coverage area if we divide by basket line. And we have our trail on the end line looking through. In terms of analysis and in terms of adjustments, the lead did step through to get a better look. But I think that we can see that they are probably looking through the back of the defense on this one as well. So our best look or our open angle is likely coming from our center position. And with that drive, if that center utilizes a cross step as the drive is progressing, they may be able to penetrate onto the court a little bit more and get an even better look there. So if we play that again, we'll have another look.
So if you just want to stop it there just for a second, Stacey. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I lost my.
That's okay. All right.
Try again.
So again, this is something that I remember this play. We discussed it. is that the ball comes to the center side of the court, okay, to the center side of the court. And I think if you look at his body language, he's expecting a rotation, right? Because he actually takes a step up. So I think our lead official, and we've all been there where we in like, okay, do I need to rotate over? Should I wait? I'm going to be moving when I make the call. But this is what we call about an active mindset. So if we go back just a little bit, when the ball is received here and the lead official is at close down, we should really think about rotating. And I think there's 3 dribbles afterwards, after the play settles at that we could probably maybe have rotated over and get a good open look at that. And like, this center official that is at the center position probably expected a rotation and it didn't happen. But that's something that we discuss, is that, if we rotate, if we get to the strong side, if we get to the ball side as much as possible, if we make the ball side the strong side as much as possible, we can. Now, foul, no foul. You know what? We would look better if we were in a better position to make this call. Okay. Okay. So, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Do you feel you've got enough time to look at this whole play again?
Sure. Oh yeah, we got it. Sure. Go ahead.
Stacey, just run it until what right now is the trail official, but center going to trail, and just watch how they move from the center to trail, and then stop it when they get to the trail. That make sense?
I think so.
Right.
Keep losing
there.
my cursor.
There.
What direction were they facing when they rotated? Were they actually engaged in the play at all? I mean, it looks to me, it's hard to tell on the screen, that they've got their head turned over their shoulder, but they certainly do not have their body facing the floor. So they're never going to get a square look at this. So from the entire time they left the center position to going out to the trail, they became unengaged in the play. So they're fundamentally not refereeing. Right now, what do we think the lead official is watching? And I know Georgia's got most people muted, but she may not be happy. But if 1 or 2 people want to come off mute and tell me what they think they're watching, the lead official is watching.
Mike, I've got a couple of comments in the chat that they're watching the ball.
That's what it certainly looks like to me. And so even if you go back, I don't want to go back to the beginning of the play. I want to stay here. But the lead official actually never leaves the ball. And they may be watching the ball here, or they may be trying to find the ball. And I think they actually cause this, the new center official never, ever gets to center. Well, Dave was correct and said they may have anticipated a rotation. They never got to center when the other rotation happened. And if we think about our keys to our rotation, as soon as the lead goes, this official that is table side goes to center at that point. The former center official, yes, is the last to rotate, but this official never completes a rotation. So if you take it a little bit further, and go to the point of the foul, that lead official to me looks like they watched that entire play from the point of the player putting the ball on the floor and going to the basket. And it's difficult to tell in this video, but to me, they look to be trying to find the ball. They're not trying to find the defender. So they're never trying to determine if the defender is legal. They're trying to find the ball and determine what happens to it. As we know, if our center official had actually gone down to a position of being on the free throw line extended, turned facing the court, and then 45 to the play, they had a chance to referee this play, but they don't have a chance from where they are. Clearly, the trail can't referee it, but our lead is in a closed down position, having watched the entire offensive player, but not the defender. Right. So I apologize, Dave.
No, that's great. And, we talked about that earlier with the center official stepping down and using body language and positioning to let everybody else on the crew know that he's accepting to play. So this is the things that we need to work on.
It's just a play that concerned me when I saw it. I think your last play concerns me more, but that's just a hint for everybody.
Okay, so we will just go to the last play that we have. So we're going to identify coverage areas. Okay, where the play, where it started, where it ended. Calling official, did the center have an open look? Okay, and could either official have an open look? So we're going to play this a few times. Okay, so if we can just go back to the start, and we look at where the play originated, okay, and we look at it originated from the strong side in the trails area as the pass goes, okay, and Stacey, if you could just play it forward, okay, still in trails area, and the drive originates from trails area and goes to the center area, okay. Now, the one thing that we want to talk about, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but we just want to talk about areas of coverage, right? This is in the center's area. Does it appear that the center has an open look? Okay, if we look here, does it appear the center has an open look? Okay, does it appear that the lead official has an open look? Okay, so what we want to talk about is that if we 45 here at lead, okay, we'll probably get a better look. Okay, now if we really play this through, so keep going through, it's a late call. Okay, so the experienced officials on the call know it's a late call. So did the center official have an open look? That's the first thing that we want to look at. And he looks to be pretty 45, and he had a pretty good open look. Okay, right. And then we look at the lead official, and what we need is that lead official to 45 a little bit and make the call. And he made the call. Okay, Mike, do you have any comments on this play?
No, sorry, Dave. I'll leave you. I was really excited to see the block charge, but I guess you're saving that for next week.
Yeah, I am. I'm saving that. Yeah, I'm saving that for next week. Sorry, because that's the first slide. Okay, so yeah, so so basically, what we want to do with these plays is to look at our positioning. Okay, look at what we do. On the court, break down plays very specifically, areas of coverage. Where it started, where it ended, who was the calling official, okay, who had the open look, and being consistent when we look at plays like this. Whether the call was right or wrong, we have to go back to the IOTs. Were we 45? Were we stationary? Were we at the right distance? If we start to improve those aspects of our game, then I think we're going to get more consistent when we call. So the first thing that we have to do is know our areas of coverage. Okay. We also have to get our nose into the book. I don't know if you have, I don't know if you've read through the 3-person manual that's on game plan. The basic one, these are excellent documents, like excellent documents. And if you all, I took some advice from Maxin, the very first education session from last, where, he makes a goal of reading the rules 20 minutes a week. It's not a lot. But, I started doing that, and you know what, like, your rules knowledge goes up. As I said in the last call that we had, is that a few things resonate with me. And one of the things is, as Mike said, basketball will be ready to go maybe sooner than we think. And basketball is going to be ready to go. And there's really no excuse for us not to be ready to go. Okay. So on that note, I think
Dave?
Stace. Yeah.
Dave, we've got a question.
Sure.
And Mike and Faye, please pipe into this. Jonathan is asking, would it be fair to say that in video clip number 3, the L should have rotated sooner?
I would say, in my opinion, yes. Okay.
Yes.
And that's just something that we look at, right? If in you know, the crew looks at it and things like that, and we break down the clip, and then we talk and we have that open discussion, open, honest discussion. And in my opinion, yes, the lead should have rotated earlier, and just to even get a better look, right, at the play.
I think to steal something a little bit from the coaching world a little bit as well, when we're looking at these clips, they talk about being in the right position, increases your vision, which improves your anticipation and leads you to better decision making. So if we are in the right position, we're going to be able to see the things we need to see. So the rules knowledge is amazing, but if we're looking at the wrong things, then we're going to run into trouble. So our positioning and knowing where we need to be looking is going to be key going forward.
Just typing into the chat right now the notion of PVAD, PVAD. In the coaching world, we position gives you vision that lets you anticipate and lets you make a decision. So we call that PVAD. We want basketball players, we want them to have a lot of PVAD. The same thing can be applied to officials in regards to your positioning, giving you a vision that allows you to have an anticipation so you deduce a proper decision.
Okay.
Any other questions? Sorry, Dave.
Yeah, I think there was a question somebody asked about 2 officials having the same call.
Yeah, I saw that there, Dave.
Yeah.
I think it was Jerry was asking that question.
Yeah.
And if we, I'm going to read the question carefully so that we all understand.
Mm-hmm.
We got a couple of new questions. Just see it here. It says, "Is it ever okay to have 2 officials make the same call?" Yes. No. We can stop there because this talks about, is it ever okay? So there is fundamentally nothing wrong with a double whistle unless the double whistles are repetitive all game long and occur no matter whose primary the play is from and no matter who has the open look on the play. There are times on a play where we may have 2 defenders that make illegal contact, perhaps on a shooter, and it's very clear that we may have one official looking at one defender from one side, and we have another official looking at the defender from the other side. There may be times where, on a rebound in particular, that a small player from outside runs into the paint, goes airborne, and crashes into the pile and knocks people over. That may be a situation where we have 2 officials that have a completely different look at the play, but they both recognize the illegal contact, and we can have a double whistle. Double whistles become a problem when on the double whistle, you have a whistle from an official that has no business being on the play. So I want to be careful with that because we don't want to be encouraging 2 whistles on a play, but the basic question, is it ever okay? Ever? Yes, it can happen. You have 2 or 3 double whistles during a game, we should not be worried about it. But if we're talking about 2 to 3 a quarter, now we're starting to ask the question, who's calling out of their primary? Who isn't trusting their partners? Who isn't willing to let the play finish? And in fact, a lot of double whistles happen because one official waits for the play to finish and the other official is calling the play before it finishes. One of the things, if it's okay, that we didn't talk about as a consistency on all of these clips, it's very interesting to me that the calling official, as soon as they make the call, is in motion. They themselves are not stationary. They don't have verbal support at the point of the foul. It's a whistle and move. Instead of a whistle, a pause, bring the attention to them, communicate what happened, show confidence, show court presence, and then move. In almost all these clips, the calling official does not end up with strong court presence because they take themselves out of the play. Sorry to keep interfering, Dave.
No, Mike, your insight is great, and that's why we appreciate you being on the call. Again, you know, if we just go back to if we read through the IOTs that are on game plan, you know, much of the things that Mike's talking about are listed in our IOTs, and we really need to get our nose into those to help us with our consistency. Any other questions, Georgia?
No, Dave.
Okay, that's great. First of all, I want to thank everybody for being on the call. I want to thank Mike and Faye particularly. We really appreciate you being on this call and your insight. Looking forward to the next session. We get a little deeper into clips and things like that. And again, what we want to make sure is, you know, what we want to take away from this is a big thing. We're not looking at right or wrong here. We're just looking at what we can do, areas of coverage, what we can do IoT wise to help us improve our consistency of calling. Okay. Georgia, that's all I've got to say. And again, I think I got everybody out of here in less than an hour. And that's what we wanted to do.
Stacey, did you want to add anything?
Just a thank you for everybody for coming and joining us and being open to learning this stuff. We're all doing it together. I know I've picked up a ton just going through this, and hopefully, you know, we're all on the same team here. And for the number of names that I recognize, you know, we get to ref with an amazing group of people, and hopefully we get to do that in person soon.